Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Todd Klindt's SharePoint podcast number 298, recorded live Monday, July 11th, 2016. I'm, of course, your host. I didn't make it onto the female gymnastics team last night in San Jose, so I'm stuck here doing my podcast, doing SharePoint with you fine people until my next big opportunity comes in. But did not make the final five, or did not make one of the three alternates. So I was pretty sad about that. But you guys are good people. I'll love hanging out here with you. Speaking of good people, I work with some good people at Rackspace. You can find out about what things we do at sharepoint.rackspace.com. We do some SharePoint point things there. Go out and check that out. And also go to www.rackspace.com/Microsoft and find out what non-SharePoint Microsoft things we do at Rackspace. We keep busy, and we would like to show you what those things are. So head to those two websites and see what we got going on. And of course, you can always get a hold of me. I'm at Todd Klindt on Twitter. I am todd.klindt@rackspace.com. I am all over. You can visit my blog, toddklindt.com/blog. Many places, whatever your way of communicating is, that's the way that you can get a hold of me. So let's move on to production notes. Production notes are particularly funny right now because I have lost my internet connection, so the live audience is gone. Those of you watching the video notice there's a stock image here, and that's because I'm recording the audio locally with Audacity because my internet connection has hiccuped. And so we will start with that and the production notes. So I'm waiting. I got multiple things going on here to tell me when I'm back online, but we got that going for production notes. So the other production notesy things going on, look at my notes here. There was no podcast last week. No podcast the week before that. It was very, very podcast light the last couple of weeks. But the good news is I'm back this week, and hopefully I will be back next week as well. Though next week is crazy because I'm moving this week. At the end of this week, I am moving. And so that once this podcast here is recorded, once 298 is recorded, I'm tearing the set down. It's all going down. And I just now realized I didn't put my lights up today. So that's funny. So the set's getting torn down. Everything's going because I'm moving to another house. Now don't fret, not moving too far away, just moving about 1.5 miles that direction to bigger digs, get a little bit more space. And, so I've been packing the last week or so. We were fortunate in that we were able to rent the garage from the previous owners. And so we've been moving stuff over for the last couple of weeks, and I've been packing. I needed one whole box just for tablets. That's how much I've been packing. So got a bunch of the office packed up now and just kind of getting everything ready. Thursday morning is the big morning where we're doing the move. It's going to be horrible. My life will be chaotic and terrible. But I'm hoping that by this time next Monday, I'll have enough put together that I'll be able to keep on air at least as long as I have today. So hopefully a better studio. We'll see. There's more rooms in the new house. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to do the podcasting stuff. So, but one of the funny things about all that is we've been packing things. Again, we've been packing for the last couple of weeks. And so now I'm in this place where I don't have all my clothes. So, the only thing that I could find that was clean today to wear was this Knight Rider t-shirt. So that's the way I'm going to be dressed for the next 3 days until I get over to the new house on Thursday and can open up boxes with all my pants, clothes, all that kind of stuff in it. But the lights, so I did mention that I forgot the lights, which is funny, but they did come in handy this weekend as part of all the stuff going on yesterday. Huge storms came through Iowa. It was big thunderstorms and lightning and all that. And we had a power outage for about 2 hours or so Sunday morning. And the house was kind of dark again. It was overcast because of the big storm. And so kids were nervous and all that because it's dark and scary. I had all these battery-powered studio lights that were just sitting around looking for stuff to do. So I got them out and hooked them up, and it worked out pretty well. we're able to keep packing, doing things like that. Had some studio lights going, so that was very handy. Thanks, podcast. Thanks, Jack, in the chat room, because without him, I would not have bought those lights all those years ago. So thanks to him. All right, we will move on to topics. My internet connection has hiccuped again. And so we'll go ahead and move on to topics. The first thing, the reason I was out last week was SPTechCon, and that was out in Boston this year, so that was a great time. Had a good time with the folks out at SPTechCon. Did a couple of sessions, did PowerShell with Office 365. I did Azure Active Directory. I did an upgrade session, and as was threatened, Shane came in and jumped into my sessions and all that. It went pretty well, but I will also say that I also did a couple of panels, and I was pretty surprised with some of the panels on how many questions we got on OneDrive. So I was on a panel Wednesday morning with some folks and took a bunch of questions from the audience, and I bet a solid half of the questions that we got from the audience involved OneDrive in one way or the other. Things like, how do we prevent people from using OneDrive? How do we make people use OneDrive? How do we keep people from putting certain things in OneDrive? How do we keep people from running their team sites out of OneDrive? How do we sync OneDrive to our phone? Lots and lots of questions about OneDrive and OneDrive for Business. So I think I'm going to try to hit some of those topics a little harder, including later in this very podcast. And I was just really surprised about how much people were talking about OneDrive. And then I don't remember which night, maybe that was Wednesday night also, the Boston SharePoint user group had a meeting that night, and they asked me to be on their they had a council there as well, and they asked me to be a part of that. And we got a lot more variety of questions, but again, a bunch of them were on OneDrive. And so I was really surprised how much information OneDrive got. So you'll probably be hearing some more about that from me, again, including later in this very podcast. Now, for you folks that are live, because currently my internet connection is out again, so you'll have to download this to actually hear what I'm talking about. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, and this would have played much better with video, but since this is all recorded with YouTube, and I can't get to YouTube right now because my cable modem's not synced up. You're not going to be able to see it, so this will be an audio-only joke and way less funny. And it wasn't particularly funny to begin with, so it's just not a lot of things working for me. But I found out July 1st, so that's since I've talked to you guys last, that my MVP has been renewed. So that is the 11th year in a row that I've been a SharePoint-related MVP. And I'm very excited about that, so thanks to everybody. And just today, I got in the mail my MVP renewal thing. So I was going to open it on air, make a very big deal about it, but I can't because my internet connection is crapped out and I'm just talking to myself. But that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this thing open and act like you're all watching and very excited for me and congratulatory and all of that. So I'm opening up the box. Again, makes for much better visuals than audio. I did not just stab myself with my letter opener. Let's be very clear about that. All right, and here you can't see it, but it is the 2016 MVP award. So thanks to all the folks that made all that happen. I couldn't do that without folks like you, folks that are downloading my podcast and talking to me on Twitter and leaving comments on my blog and things like that. I couldn't be an MVP without you folks. So thank you for all of the questions you guys ask and all the interactions that you give me. This has been a good time. So this is 11 of them in a row. This one is from 2016. My first year was 2005, I think. So I'm kind of excited about that. So for the folks, we'll do this quick while the chat room gets joined back up. So I was talking about how I got my MVP renewed this year, and I just happened to get it today, the MVP packet, and I wanted to show you guys, but then you very rudely left my chat room and all of that, so I couldn't. So I get this award. This is very, very exciting. Steven Guggenheimer, I'm sure that this is actually him signing it. Hey, look, it's you guys. I got some stickers. Everybody loves stickers, so that's good. I got a pin, an award disc, all of that. The secret handshake. the key to Satya Nadella's private executive washroom, all of that. So thank you all for that. That was good times. I'm happy to be helping you in the community and becoming an MVP for another year. One thing I wanted to mention, because a couple of you hit me up on Twitter about it and I didn't get it fixed as quickly as I should have. On the SharePoint 2013 patch page, I accidentally put SharePoint Server twice for the July 2016 patches. And a couple of you alerted me on Twitter. I appreciate that. Somebody hit me up again this morning, so I finally fixed it, the day before the next patches come out. So I have one full day of that page being correct with July, so I will try to stay on top of that in the future. I apologize for that. Thanks to everybody that goes there. Thanks to everybody that keeps me honest when it's incorrect. Thanks to all the people that tell me when they have problems. I appreciate that too. So the next thing I want to talk about, and let's do this quick before you guys in the chat room just run off again because you guys just can't stick around. One of the things that's come out in the last couple of weeks, and I think I might have talked about this in a previous podcast. I think they released a version early or something, but Microsoft Press has released a free ebook configuring Microsoft SharePoint hybrid capabilities. And this is a very cool little book. I'm very excited about this, but this book is also why I don't write books anymore. When you download this book, and again, free ebook, it's got Neil Hodgkinson is in it, Jeremy Taylor is in it, a couple other folks that are way smarter than me. This book is a great book. It's professional, it's tech edited, it's sharp, it's got all kinds of great content in it, and they're giving it away for nothing, which makes it really tough for guys like me to write books and try to charge for them when stuff like this is available at this quality for free on the internet. So when people come up and ask me why I don't write books anymore, why I haven't written a SharePoint 2016 book, books like this one, awesome books like this one, are exactly why that is, because it just, the market has changed. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. This book, again, is tremendous. Now, I haven't had a chance to read it yet. I'm always reading something. I always have a book on my Kindle that I'm in the middle of. That always is the case. And so when I finish the book that I'm reading now, then I will probably read this one next. The book that I'm reading now is a very touching Nicholas Sparks romantic thing. So, I want to find out what happens to the male protagonist and female protagonist who are in love, but yet the system seems to be working against them. And all that. So once I find out what happens to those two crazy kids, then I'll jump in and probably check this. But it's a good book and I look forward to it. So the chapters, oh God, I was going to tell you about the chapters. So it looks pretty thorough. Again, I've just kind of thumbed through it a little bit, speaking as thumbing through a PDF. It's got a chapter on setup. So getting everything bolted together and all that. A chapter on search, hybrid search, hybrid BCS, a chapter on PowerShell, a chapter on troubleshooting, which is great because too many books are all about here's how things get set up, but not very many books have good chapters on and here's what to do if things aren't set up. So that's good. And then just chapters of advanced stuff. So it's a really good book. I know Jeremy, I know Neil quite well, and it's going to be a quality book. So go out and grab that one. Give them some props on Twitter or however, and let them know that you appreciate it. Again, it's a weird world because you don't get royalties and you don't, anyway, let them know how much you love it. Let them know how much you appreciate their free book. They've earned it. They worked hard for it. Let them know. So as I said earlier in the podcast, those of you in the Slack room and watching online who just abandoned me at the beginning of this probably didn't hear much of this, but OneDrive got a lot of attention at SPTechCon. A lot of people asked about it. So I wanted to mention some OneDrive topics today before my internet poops out again, which will likely happen very soon. OneDrive, how can I say this diplomatically? I should have written notes about this. OneDrive is way better than it was a year ago. Way better than it was 2 years ago. It's still got a long ways to go. And part of the reason that I know that this is not just subjective and not just me whining and all of that, though there is a fair amount of that as well, is there is actually a knowledge base article entitled, "Which OneDrive Sync Client Am I Using?" That is what a mess OneDrive and the OneDrive Sync clients are. Now, I have, so far as I've been talking about this topic, I have avoided being specific about OneDrive, talking about what I mean by OneDrive, and that's part of the problem. There is OneDrive. OneDrive is kind of the all-encompassing thing. There is consumer OneDrive, or what my friends and I have taken to calling OneDrive for pleasure, and that is the consumer OneDrive. It's, out there, you get it with Hotmail, whatever. There, and you can buy space with that. It syncs with Windows, syncs with your phone, all that kind of stuff. There is OneDrive for Business, but OneDrive for Business that is on-prem. So if you've got SharePoint Server, nothing but SharePoint Server, when you click the OneDrive icon in the upper right, it takes you to OneDrive for Business, not OneDrive Consumer or OneDrive for Pleasure. That's OneDrive for Business. That has a sync client that uses a technology called OneDrive to sync down locally as well. There's another OneDrive for Business that is Office 365, SharePoint Online OneDrive for Business, that has another client, sort of. It's all very, very confusing. And so it is confusing enough that Microsoft at support.office.com actually has a knowledge base article, which OneDrive sync client am I using, because it gets that confusing. Now, for the most part, if you keep up on things and have your applications and OSs and all that updating, and you're running relatively recent versions of things, you should be running what's called the next gen sync client, which makes me curious what they're going to call the one after that. Anyway, so the next gen sync client syncs with OneDrive Consumer, OneDrive for Business, OneDrive for Pleasure. Let me start over with that. The next gen sync client syncs with OneDrive Consumer, also known as OneDrive for Pleasure, OneDrive for Business, Office 365, asterisk, but not SharePoint Server on-prem OneDrive for Business. That's the state of things in July of 2016, Common Era. That's what the next gen sync client does. And for the most part, it seems to be working really well for me for consumer OneDrive. So keeping my documents, and that PowerPoint document you got behind me, that's in OneDrive. I keep a lot of music up there because Groove uses that. Also, funny thing about that, the executable, I think for that is, that one is not. That one is OneDrive.exe. Okay. So next gen sync client, you probably have that. And if you look at the version, you can go into the help about, and it's version 16 something or another. I don't know what it is. Here's what that doesn't do though. Like I said, it does not sync with on-prem stuff. So if you have SharePoint Server 2013, 2016, whatever, the next gen sync client does not sync with that. You need the old OneDrive client. How can you tell if you're running the old OneDrive client? Well, you right-click on your taskbar there. You go to Task Manager, and you look at your processes. And if you see Groove.exe, that is the old OneDrive client, and that's the OneDrive client you need to sync to on-prem SharePoint 2013 or 2016. And yes, it can coexist with the next-gen sync client. You can have many OneDrives. Yes. Okay. So that is the previous gen sync client. I don't know what they call that one. The other thing that comes in handy for, and this is what I learned the hard way, is the next gen sync client syncs with Office Online, SharePoint Online, Office 365, and it will sync down locally, but only your MySite document libraries. So when you go into SharePoint Online and you go to your thing and you go to your MySite, sync now, blah, or if you've got the OneDrive client, OneDrive Consumer, if you right click and go to settings and say add a business account, you add your SharePoint Online account, it will connect up and it will sync down your MySite. And you're thinking, hey, this thing is awesome. What it will not do is sync any other folder in SharePoint Online. No folders besides your MySite. And that is as of July 2016, Common Era. So what do you need to do if you've got SharePoint Online and you want to sync something besides just your MySite? Well, you have to download the old Office 2013 version of OneDrive or Groove.exe. Okay, so that's easy enough. But what happens if you've got Office 2016 installed on your machine and you try to install the Office 2013 version of OneDrive? Well, the OneDrive installer gets very, very upset and gives you the digital equivalent of a stiff middle finger. On this box, that is where I sit right now. So this box here is running Windows 10, Office 2016, the next-gen sync client, and for me to sync with a non-MySite SharePoint Online folder, I can't right now. There's no way for me to do it. The only way that I can do it is if I install the Office 2013 version of the OneDrive client, which the Office 2016 installer is having no part of. And so from doing some browsing on the internet, it looks like what I have to do is completely uninstall Office 2016 off of this box, all traces. Install the 2013 version of OneDrive, get that working with Office 365, and then install Office 2016. I don't know that that's going to happen. I just don't know. But anyway, that is where that's at. And there is a knowledge base article on that particular exercise as well, called How Do I Install the OneDrive for Business Sync Client for SharePoint 2013 and SharePoint Online? Who's in the what's it? It's a mess. Now, obviously the OneDrive team knows that this is not ideal. Clearly they've heard some feedback on that. Their heads are not in the sand. Hopefully there is a path forward for that, and hopefully we will get a OneDrive client that does OneDrive Consumer, OneDrive for Business on-prem, OneDrive for Business online, and all of the folders in which hither and yon that we want to sync. Right now, I would love OneDrive for Business. Been using Office 365 a lot more the last month or so. Would love to be able to sync these things down. Right now, it is just not a possibility. Just cannot be done by mortal man. So that's, again, wanted to talk a little bit about OneDrive for Business because, again, it's been getting a bunch of attention. Right now, I'm calling it bad names and muttering about it under my breath because of this particular thing. But I'm willing to come back and love it again. I'm willing to do that. I'm a reasonable guy. Okay, so those were the topics for this week, and I have been online successfully for like 5 to 7 minutes. I've not lost my internet connection. It is amazing. It's a Christmas miracle. I don't know what else to say. Okay, so for promotion, so I've added a new event to my shameless self-promotion. Lori says not 5 to 7 minutes, 5 plus 7 minutes has been 12 minutes. Hooray. All right, so shameless self-promotion. One of the events, so this is a long time coming. And I mean this, it is years. We're talking 6, 7 years probably in reality that the patient folks in Ljubljana, Slovenia have been trying to get me to come over to their fine country and speak about the product we all know and love, SharePoint. And it is finally going to happen. October 24th and 25th is SharePoint Days Slovenia. Oh, but it's not in Ljubljana. Sorry, I'll be flying into Ljubljana probably. It is taking place in Bled, Slovenia, Lake Bled. And I think the first time the folks over there approached me to come over to teach a class or to speak at a user group or something was literally like 6 or 7 years ago, long before Rackspace, long before all of that. And schedules never worked, and it's kind of expensive to get over there and everything. But we're making it work this time. So October 24th and 25th is SharePoint Days in Slovenia, in Bled, Slovenia. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be talking to honest-to-goodness Slovenians about SharePoint. I cannot wait. Like I said, it's been a long time coming. The other thing that's somewhat fun about this particular thing is a few years ago, my wife and I went on a Mediterranean cruise, and it stopped in Slovenia. And I can't remember where it stopped. Piran, I think, Slovenia. But anyway, there were 2 excursions that we could take. We could take an excursion up to Lake Bled, or we could take an excursion to another city, and I forget which one that was. But we ended up going like, Lake Bled doesn't sound that great. We'll go to this other city. So maybe we went to Piran. Maybe we docked someplace else. I forget. But a bunch of our friends from the cruise went up to Lake Bled. They came back. They wouldn't shut up about how much they loved Lake Bled, how great it was, how we were dummies for not going to Lake Bled. I've been filled with remorse and regret for 5 years now that I didn't go to Lake Bled. So not only do I get to go to Slovenia and talk about SharePoint with all my friends over there, I get to go to Lake Bled and do it. So I'm very excited about that. So in the chat room, Mark Christman is saying the URL that I posted had frontpage.aspx in it. I think it's just the front page of the conference. I don't think it's any reference to the product currently known as SharePoint Designer. I almost said that backwards. So yeah, if you go to SharePoint-dnevi.si, and they are kind enough to have an English page for those of us who don't speak Slovenian, it's great. So I can't wait to go there. Again, I spent a day there, and it was great. I loved it. Loved Slovenia. Loved all of that in the Adriatic there. Had a great time. So I can't wait to go over there. Not sure what sessions I'm going to be doing, what topics, but I've been emailing back and forth with them, and hopefully gonna have something fun to announce here in the next week or so. So then that's October 24th and 25th. October 26th, because I think I am the worst husband ever, is my anniversary, but I'll be flying from Slovenia to Stockholm because October 27th and 28th is the SharePoint Exchange Forum in Stockholm, Sweden. And this is an event that I have been going to for a long time, nearly 10 years, and cannot say enough good things about the SharePoint Exchange Forum event itself. Stockholm, Sweden, one of my favorite cities on the entire earth. And Joran Huseman, a fellow SharePoint MVP and a man who has grown to become a great personal friend of mine and just somebody I love and respect the heck out of. He always does a great job with the SharePoint Exchange Forum. And I'm so glad to be going back. And I'm just really glad that the Slovenian SharePoint days and the SharePoint Exchange Forum worked out in such a way that I can do them back to back without having to make a bunch of trips back and forth to Europe. So I'll be over there. This time they're doing it with IT Unity. And so they've got more marketing push and all that kind of stuff. I've been doing a lot more with IT Unity as well. Great group of folks there. And so it's going to be great. I can't wait to go there. I also have not decided which topics we're going to talk about there yet. We're still working on that. But I will be there. So if you're in Europe and you want to hear me speak in the month of October, check out the SharePoint Days in Slovenia or the SharePoint Exchange Forum in Stockholm. Can't say enough. And I would be remiss if I did not mention one final little conference that's going to be coming up. And this is one, it's actually in September, so I did the order incorrectly. Let me jump back in and fix my notes here so I do it right next time. This is a little event in Atlanta, Georgia, here in the U.S., and this is Microsoft Ignite. I can officially say now that I am speaking at Microsoft Ignite, so you can go ahead and go there. That is September 26th through the 30th in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think you can go to ignite.microsoft.com, bounce you around, and get there. It's going to be a great event. I'm going to be doing a couple of sessions there. Right now, there's just kind of a general admin session that I'm going to be doing, but there's going to be some other stuff there that I'm going to be trying to do as well. So go to Ignite. That's September 26th through the 30th. Okay, I'm back in now, in Atlanta, Georgia. And I know a bunch of other folks have been mentioning that they're going to be doing that. I need to blog it, something like that also. But if you're going to be at Ignite, for goodness sakes, come find me. I don't know what Rackspace is going to be doing. I don't know if we're going to be having a booth or whatever, but I'll be there. I'm a pretty friendly guy, so come look me up. Well, the online audience got to miss me talking about a few things, but I'm going to stick around as much as I can afterwards. So thanks, everybody. Again, next week, I'm going to be in new studios. This will be the last podcast recorded at this location. When I started this podcast 7 years ago, almost 7.5 years ago now, it was in this house. It's always been in this house. It's been all over. It's been on several floors of this house. But they've all been here. March 2009, I think, is when I started this whole mess. I wish I could have worked it so that episode 299 would have been my last one here, and then episode 300 would have been the new one, next one at the new house. That just didn't quite work out because of SPTechCon and all that, but that would have been super cool if I'd have pulled that off. I'm just not that cool, unfortunately. But next week will be the first one in the new house. It'll likely be a big mess and horrible and sparks flying, and it'll be horrible. But I look forward to y'all joining me. So thanks, everybody. Chat room, stick around as much as you've been able to stick around. And I will see you all next week.